Ponytails. Read by Scribbler. When You Fall by the Worst Writer. Scootaloo shivered and wiped the small trickle of blood from her forehead. A crack of thunder split the air as the thick sheets of rain continued to fall. Rainbow Dash looked up into the sky, blinking against the bright flashes of lightning, before turning back to face her biggest fan.
Come on, Scoots, we should really get back inside. This storm is gonna get a lot worse, and we should probably rebandage you.
The orange filly shuffled her hooves and gazed at the ground.
Are you sure? I mean, it's still early.
Yeah, I know, but it's not like we can do much in this weather.
Scootaloo squirmed in place, working her brain uselessly for an excuse to stay out, and coming up with nothing.
What's wrong? Are you okay? You felt pretty hard yesterday.
I don't think I can make it.
What are you talking about? I'm gonna carry you. I don't expect you to be able to fly that high when you're injured. Especially not with your wings soaking wet and with all this wind.
Are you sure it's okay?
Your parents are already super angry at you, right? Yelling about being careful, the accident could have been worse, blah blah. They told you it was too dangerous and you snuck out to try again anyway. When you go home, they'll be pretty upset. You're not really running away or anything, you just don't want to get yelled at anymore. I get it, Squirt. I did the same thing a few times. It's actually pretty useful. They'll get really worried about you and start to forget how mad they are. And when you come back, they'll just be really glad to see you. Just don't make them wait too long. A pony can get pretty worked up if they don't know what's happened to some pony they care about. Get all emotional and crazy. Your parents don't deserve that.
Yeah, I know. I'll go home tonight.
Good. Alright then, let's get flying. So, you want to do this at the same time next week?
Yeah!
Scootaloo bounced with excitement, gradually slowing as a frown overtook her smile.
If my parents don't kill me first.
That won't happen. They're cooling off right now, you'll see. And besides, we'll just be more careful from now on.
Dash said, turning to look at Scootaloo's fresh bandages.
How are you holding up?
I'm fine. Pretty sore, but I don't think anything's broken.
Glad to hear it.
She stared down at the filly's face, wearing a slight frown.
I just wish your forehead would stop bleeding.
It's not a problem. It's just a little trickle. It doesn't even hurt.
Alright. If you say so.
Dash said with a sigh and a shrug.
It just doesn't seem healthy for a wound to keep bleeding, even if it's only a little. It should have scabbed over by now.
So, what are we gonna do now?
No idea. What do you usually do for fun?
Crusading or practicing, but I don't think those would work very well if the other Crusaders are a lot of open space. I would
She scratched the back of her head with a hoof and blushed lightly.
probably break your stuff. I break a lot of things. What do you do when you're stuck inside?
I don't know. I'm not usually alone when I'm inside. I spend my time up in the sky out there, or hanging out with my friends. Nap, I guess?
That doesn't sound like the awesome Rainbow Dash I know.
Hey, it usually isn't, 'cause I'm not usually stuck inside. Most of the time there's a storm, I'm either out there working on it or being awesome up above it.
Scootaloo's eyes grew wide and glistened with excitement.
What's it like way up there? Can we go above the storm?
Sorry, Scoots, I don't think so. It's pretty dangerous flying up through the top layer, and you already got hurt once today. It probably sounds weird to hear me backing down from something risky since danger and awesome go together like Twilight and books, but I'm worried about what might happen to you. It was kinda scary to watch you fall like that, and I'd never forgive myself if any pony got seriously hurt because of me.
Scootaloo frowned.
Aw, come on, don't be like that. It's all cold and wet out here anyway, and we'd have to go through it twice on the way up and down. I saw you shivering. You really want to go back out there?
I guess not.
Cheer up, Squirt. We'll find something cool to do for a few hours. I'll take you back home, and then you can do whatever you normally do with your friends until next week. And then, we'll crank the radicalness up to 11. We'll get you flying and doing some basic tricks.
Rainbow Dash knocked on the door of the small 2-story house and waited. It was raining heavily, and she was shielding Scootaloo with a wing. No pony was answering the door, and the lights were off.
It's fine. I'm sure they're just all mad at me.
No way. They're way past mad by now. Definitely really worried about...
The door creaked open, and an orange Pegasus stallion peered out with droopy red eyes. It looked like he had been crying. Scootaloo dashed inside and galloped up the stairs without a word. Dash followed her with her eyes, eventually looking back at the filly's father when she could no longer be seen. His eyes were pointed in her direction, but he wasn't looking at her. He was staring into the distance, as if in a trance. After a brief but awkward silence, she cleared her throat.
Probably should have come by sooner. Sorry. I used to pull a lot of the same crap with my parents, and I know how worried it always made them. It won't happen again.
His eyes snapped open, and his wings flared. He threw a punch, landing squarely on the side of her muzzle. Rainbow Dash went spiraling to the side and slid into the mud.
If I see you again,
he snorted, trotting forward until he was uncomfortably close to Rainbow Dash's face.
You will regret it.
The stallion turned and stomped angrily back inside before slamming the door violently. Dash laid still for several minutes, shocked into silence. Eventually she decided to move and rose slowly to her hooves. The pouring rain washed the mud off of her coat within seconds, leaving the dark bruise as the only sign that anything had happened. The sound of hoofsteps echoing down the street became audible, but Dash was still too stunned to react to her surroundings. Sure, she had played a part in the minor injury of his daughter and helped her run off for a few hours, but that had been a devastating punch. It was as though he hadn't held back at all, as though he had wanted to kill her. His filly was home, happy and mostly unharmed, but the stallion was positively furious. Maybe that was why Scootaloo had been worried about her parents being angry. Maybe they had anger issues. Or maybe Dash was just trying to avoid feeling responsible by blaming others. It was her fault. Scootaloo hadn't been ready, and she'd pushed her to try anyway. Dash hadn't noticed, but the hoofsteps had been getting louder. They stopped a short distance behind her.
Rainbow? That you? Rainbow, what in tarnation are you doing out here in this weather?
She shook her head and looked toward her friend.
Oh, I was just... This is Scootaloo's house. What are you doing out here?
Applejack frowned.
I'm just on my way back from Rarity's place. Had some business to take care of with her,
she said, patting the slight bulge in her saddlebag. She looked at Dash's face and winced.
You okay?
Dash put a hoof to her bruise and rubbed gently.
Yeah, I'll be fine.
Are you sure? That's a pretty nasty bruise. You want to talk about it?
Nah, I'll be fine. I'm gonna go take a nap or something.
Okay then.
Hey, Applejack?
Yeah, Sugar Cube?
What would you do if Apple Bloom got hurt? And it was an accident, but some pony was sorta at fault.
The farm pony trotted up gently next to her friend and put a hoof on her shoulder.
I don't rightly want to think about it. I know you must feel completely awful about this, but I'm afraid I can't bring myself to contemplate that scenario. I'd be so gosh darn mad I wouldn't be able to see straight. Apple Bloom is my sister, my flesh and blood. Scootaloo.
I know, AJ, but I'm not asking for me. I guess I don't understand what it's like for her parents.
Dash said, pointing a hoof at the unlit house. Applejack touched Dash's bruised muzzle.
Is that what this is? Go home, Rainbow. Go home and sleep and don't come back to this house. Everything'll be fine.
I said no! You saw how mad your dad was. He's probably right too. It was stupid of me. You weren't ready. You shouldn't even be here. Go home and change that bandage. You're still bleeding.
Please? Apple Blue and Sweetie Belle won't come out of their rooms, so I can't go crusading. It's almost my birthday and I really want to be able to do this by then.
Other ponies are supposed to do things for you for your birthday, not the other way around.
It's not like that. If you can help me do this just in time, then having taught me is a present to me and finally doing it is my present to myself. I'm not gonna quit. Wouldn't it be more dangerous if I was practicing by myself? Yeah, I crashed last time, but you were there to keep me in line, making sure I was staying at a safe height and doing everything right.
And I failed. You didn't get it right and you got hurt and I put your parents through something terrible. AJ was telling me that if Apple Bloom got hurt, she would—
If I was alone, it probably would have been worse. Being reckless and risky is the key to being radical. My parents will be fine.
Dash pointed a hoof at the bruise on her own face.
Some ponies have problems. Ignoring them doesn't help.
Scootaloo crouched low, paused, and took off into the air. She rose slowly, beating her wings furiously.
What are you doing?
I'm flying. Maybe we both messed up. You just have to pick yourself up when you fall down. Are you gonna stand there and gawk, or are you gonna get up here?
No!
Loud hoofbeats and furious shouting came from just over a nearby hill. An orange Pegasus ran over the crest of the hill, his head whipping about as his eyes darted across the landscape. He spotted them.
No!
Dash froze in place and craned her neck upward. Scootaloo was still climbing higher, her wings growing more unsteady with each flap. Rainbow Dash pushed her way through the door, and the bell chimed brightly.
Just a moment. I'll be right with... Oh! Rainbow Dash, whatever happened to you?
Nothing. I'm here for...
I know what you're here for, dear, but please. Those bruises do not look like nothing to me.
Dash let out a long sigh, and her shoulders slumped.
I was out with Scootaloo and...
No, dear. I know about the accident, but your bruises...
I was standing at the door to Scoot's house last night, and I guess some ponies take it harder than others when something bad happens.
Stay right here. I'm going to get you some makeup to cover those.
Rarity trotted out of view, and Dash's eyes began to wander around the boutique. Everything was a terrible mess. While the back rooms could look quite disorganized at times, Rarity was careful to maintain an air of orderliness for her customers. She always valued appearances, and the impression the shop itself made on a client could prove vital. The alabaster unicorn returned, carrying a small bag with her magic.
Do you know how to put it on?
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
All right then. You sure you'll be okay?
Uh-huh.
Well then.
Rarity said, floating the little bag and a larger one that had been on a shelf towards Dash. Dash leaned down to pick up the bags, but stopped a few inches short.
Hey, Rarity?
Yes?
What would you do if... You know what, never mind. I'll see you later.
Are you positively certain you've got everything under control?
Don't worry about me.
Rainbow Dash landed gingerly on the soft, swaying grass. The dress fit perfectly, as expected of one of Rarity's works. It looked like it hadn't even started yet. Lots of ponies were here, but they were a bit scattered. They were in small clusters, talking among themselves. Looking around, Applejack, Big Macintosh, Applebloom and Granny Smith were sitting quietly under a tree. Fluttershy and Rarity were conversing softly some distance away, with Sweetie Belle standing next to her sister. Pinkie Pie was visible in the distance, unusually subdued, trotting rather than bouncing toward every pony. A gust of wind rattled a few leaves across the ground, and Dash turned her head in response to the sound. She spotted Scootaloo's parents. Her father looked directly at her. He was wearing the saddest expression she had ever seen, and somehow that was worse than the anger from before.
Rainbow, you look terrible. What happened to you?
Twilight Sparkle had snuck up behind Dash while her eyes were caught on the melancholy stallions.
Oh, is it that bad? Rarity gave me some makeup to try to cover it, but I guess I'm no good with that kind of stuff.
Makeup? She should have sent you to the clinic. Where in Equestria did you get all these bruises?
Really, Twilight, I'm fine.
Dash said, scanning the area again before frowning.
I don't see her. Why would she be late?
Pinkie's right over there, Dash.
Not Pinkie, Scootaloo.
Are you sure you're okay?
Yeah, I just don't get it. Her parents are here, and Ponyville's pretty far away. She can't still be back there. I don't get why we had to do this way out here.
Dash, her parents have been here for a few days. They moved back here, right after the accident.
Oh, come on, Twilight. I know her dad's a jerk, but they wouldn't just leave her like that.
Rainbow Dash seemed to be ignoring her environment now. She was staring, empty-eyed, into the space in front of her. Slowly, she lifted a trembling hoof upward. As it rose, it steadied. And then she hit herself. Hard. She tumbled over backwards and shot upright almost instantly. Her eyes were still pointed forward, but were glazed and without focus.
What in the hay did you do that for?
Twilight grabbed her and shook vigorously.
Dash! Snap out of it!
Huh?
She blinked several times before her eyes returned to normal.
Some party this is gonna be if that's how things get started.
Dash, where do you think you are?
Twilight looked down, her eyes glistening with tears.
This isn't a party.
Of course it is! Today's Scoot's birthday, and we're all here to make sure she has a good time. I think she's even gonna pull off the trick I've been trying to teach her.
Every pony had grown silent and turned to stare at the commotion with bewildered looks on their faces. Scootaloo's father trotted gently to Dash. His face was stained with tears.
I don't blame you.
What?
She absolutely adored you. She was happy. The doctor said they said she didn't feel anything. It was too fast for her to even realize what was happening.
Scootaloo nuzzled up against her, eyes closed and forehead bleeding.
Maybe we're both messed up. You just have to pick yourself up when you fall down.
Rainbow Dash wept.